All right, y'all. I do believe that today we have a short podcast episode. Hopefully, finally, I'll try and keep my chatter to a minimum and just get right to the points. Um, so in the spirit of that, let's jump into the Facebook Marketplace. Actually, let's start with the minimum budget. So, had a little bit of a freak out about budget. I think I touched on this in the last episode. But yeah, I had a big freak out about the budget and the whole crowdfunding thing. And it's like, knock on wood, but it's not looking too hot for us in the crowdfunding campaign realm. And I did a little looking into it with the whole crowdfunding thing. And not to throw shade on anyone, but I'm also a little bit annoyed. I went and looked at a couple of successful crowdfunding campaigns that are in my periphery, right? Of people that I know that are successfully crowdfunding. And it's not looking like most of them, and there are exceptions, I'm sure everybody's doing a lot of hard work and all of that. I'm not trying to shit on any of my buddies. And I'm so thankful that all of them got their excellent crowdfunding goals. Congrats, man. But it's not looking like they commanded some large Steam internet sensation thing or grabbed a whole world of new supporters or anything like that. It's looking like they grabbed about maybe somewhere less than 50 people. Somewhere less than 50 people, which 50 is an impressive number as is. I'm talking about like we're talking in the 15 to 30 range, right? Maybe 35 or whatever. And for crowdfunding $10,000, that means that each of these people is giving a very significant amount of money. We're not talking about the like whole Bernie Sanders, right? $27 approach, right? We're talking about okay, someone you know is being very generous, right? And so I looked at my email list, right? And I've sent, probably the number I'm giving is 120 plus, but it's definitely significantly more than that, but who knows? I sent all of those emails, right, and didn't get too much in response, which is fair. I'm begging for money on the internet. I get why you wouldn't want to respond to that, or why you would just want to say, "Hey, great job, thank you." Right? And, I'm looking at this and it's not a huge, put it this way, it's not 20 deep pocket people in that scope who are excited to be doing this deep pocket stuff, right? I'm emailing a lot of my friends who were also just having graduated and having worked on my thing. And so it seems to me that the way to successfully do a crowdfunding campaign, at least in this sort of particular scenario, has a lot more to do with how many people on your Rolodex you think are going to give you $500 or more, and less to do with how many people you can email that want to give you money, right? And that's not to say that I am not in a privileged position. I'm in a very privileged position in the world and in my life and in all that, right? Living at my parents' house rent free. Not everybody gets to do that, right? I'm getting supported by a lot of people, and to those people who are supporting, I really do appreciate everything. And I don't expect anything more out of anybody, so I don't want it to sound like, why are you not giving me $500? It's that I had a misconception of what this was gonna be, I guess. And maybe I didn't crowdfund correctly. I'm sure I'll try it again at some point. Or maybe I stumbled upon the whole like maybe crowdfunding isn't crowdfunding, it's friends and family who love you $500 much funding. But there's that. And again, a lot of people were very generous with me, and I very much appreciate that. And I am not upset about the crowdfunding thing. I guess I just, you know, the way it's marketed at you isn't what I experienced. But again, maybe I did it wrong, and maybe I should have done better and worked harder. There is a total possibility of that, and if that's the response, that's fine. Let's move in. So now with me freaking out about, not doing the crowdfunding thing to the $10,000 degree, I'm like, how much is the minimum budget? What do we have to do to just make the movie? So I'm gonna pull it up, and sorry to the audio listeners, you don't get to know. And I'm putting in red the amount of money I've saved by doing workarounds, right? Or by people donating things, right? So meals already, that's $2,000, right? So again, luckily I am putting my own personal savings into this thing. I'm, singing a whole bunch of stuff into it. I hope I don't have to go into the, retirement fund stuff, but we'll see. This is definitely my top priority, right? I found a great deal. We could probably get all the guitar pedals we need from a local rental company in Austin. The guitar, I found it for 100, and I do have a funny story about that, so we'll get into that. Some groceries for the house. I'm putting $1,000 for film festivals in the post budget, which even still I think is a little light. And I hope to get to 2,000. But then again, once the film is finished, which could be like a year and a half from now, maybe that by that time, maybe I will have an extra $1,000. Who knows, right? Lighting rentals, I found a kit, but I'm hoping to find some better stuff. But this doesn't include getting a new camera. I'm shooting this on a Sony mirrorless now, right? Which I have some below everything, right? How much for everything else? If I do want to get a nice camera, we're gonna have to throw down $1,000 to get something, right? Because also what's really annoying is that rental houses, and I'm gonna chop this off now, is that rental houses uh for a total of a month-long shoot are going to end up charging you what it would just cost you to buy a used version. So me as a guy who likes to make films, I'm thinking about which things I should rent and which things I should just go ahead and buy. So I'm looking at um uh cameras on Facebook Marketplace and all that stuff, and lights on Facebook Marketplace, and my also, something I was talking about with Roberto in the last episode, or I don't know if it made it to cut. But yeah, it's the more equipment you can have, maybe that makes you more hireable. So me as a person who's trying to start getting hired on gigs and all that, maybe I do need to just start investing in some equipment, and then people are going to want to hire me. So there's all that. I've started going on Facebook Marketplace, starting to try and find things. The reason why I thought of it was because we need to buy a guitar, and we need to buy a guitar that looks like a $500 guitar when we only have a maximum of $200 to buy it, right? And we need to ruin it because I gotta put a Freemason emblem on the guitar itself. So, I'm not gonna be able to, do that to a rental guitar. So anyway, I look and I find a guitar for $100, right? It's a Jackson guitar, and I'm like, great, Jackson's a guitar company that makes a variety of guitars from cheap to super expensive, right? And if I get this, people won't be able to differentiate between this cheap and the super expensive based on the way we're shooting it, right? Versus, if I buy a guitar that says Squire on the top, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, he bought a Squire, not a Fender," right? So anyway, I find a deal for $100, the guitar and the amp, and I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" having another amp in the room, that's awesome. And it's my favorite type of amp, which is orange personally. But um, what's it called? Back to the amps don't make music. I make music with amps, right? Um, so anyway, I drive all the way up to Waco, which is about an hour and a half away, which I didn't realize I was signing up to drive an hour and a half to Waco, but I had already made the deal with him online. By the time that I ended up, setting up a meeting, and I was like, oh no, this is tomorrow in Waco, Texas. This is not an Austin, Texas thing. And that's because I was searching only in Austin, and then somehow the, recommendeds led to recommendeds or whatever. So anyway, I get there and he hands me a child guitar, like a very, very small, half-sized guitar, and I'm like, fuck, right? How am I going to sell this as an expensive guitar when it looks half the size of every other guitar, right? How's this going to work? And I had already given him the money. I had already driven up to Waco, and so it was just like, well, I just lost $100. I guess I still have 100 more to find a guitar, right, based on the budget. And then I go and I talk to my grandpa, and we decide that we're gonna hack this thing open and try to rewire it so that it ends up being a noise making machine rather than your go-to guitar because that fits the character very well. And the idea I kind of thought through, right? And the whole, what's it called? Restrictions breed creativity, Jack White kind of approach. I was like, well, um, maybe this was his childhood guitar and maybe he still has it, and maybe that's why it has the Freemason emblem on it, because it was a while ago that he was, really into the Freemasons, this character's specific backstory, right? So, um, I'm like, yeah, all of this makes sense. Let's just make it so that maybe he has this guitar that he's just hacked to pieces, right? And turned into something that isn't what people would normally use for guitar, right? So the minimum thing I was thinking about was just adding a kill switch. And then I was also thinking about what if I, actually break the pickups, which I think I will end up doing. So, I brought it over to my grandpa, talked to him about that, and neither of us knew what we were doing. We wired around, and I think we accidentally made a kill switch. But I'm not sure what we actually did. I plugged it in and tested it, and it works the way I wanted it to work, but we'll see. So there's the funny story about the guitar. Um, what else did I want to talk about? So we're also looking at, how much to get a camera. I ended up emailing Austin Film Society. I was going to apply for a grant with them, but I do know that they have, resources and all that. And I found out about the local Austin, public producers program, which is super sick. However, we get into a problem, again with the whole time span thing, is they only let you rent out equipment for 5 days, which if it wasn't for that one rule, this would be the perfect thing because for $120, I think for a whole year, which is a great deal. You get access to all this equipment, and the only rule is you have to share whatever you produce with the Austin public, and that would work. But yeah, so that's sadly not going to work, which is a bummer. But I'll email them and see what else they have as far as resources. But also I wanted to apply to the grant, and now that we're kind of switched from, I'm going to do this in a year or whatever to I'm going to do this in 3 months, I don't have time to wait around for the grant application process, right? Because they only do it in the spring. But next project I do, I'm not going to go around telling people I'm going to make a feature until I've started applying to grants, I think. But who knows? Um, so anyway, that's where we're at there. Let's think through what else I wanted to discuss. Yeah. So next steps. I talked to um we're gonna operate off this minimum budget sheet and just try and save money wherever we can, because the more we save, the more I might be able to pay people or buy more bells and whistly equipment, right? Like a nicer camera than the Sony A7, which again is a very nice camera and would make this movie look badass, but it's not a cinema camera. And maybe that's a whole pretentious thing, like why are you shooting on a DSLR or a mirrorless, right? Versus shooting on a cinema camera, but who knows? Um, it's a great all-around camera, but I don't know how much better or worse it is for actually making a movie. It will be, but who knows? So yeah, and the idea is, right, the main thing I want to get is all our meals covered, right? So if I can reach out to as many local restaurants as possible, get them to donate one meal, right? I only need to, get 20 of those or so. And then that's $2,000 right there that I can now use on either paying people, getting nicer, newer equipment and stuff like that, right? Um, and so that's what we're going to operate on. And then on the other side of that, we're going to operate on getting pedal companies, which has been the whole goal of everything. But I wanted to have a successful crowdfunding campaign first so that then pedal companies are like, oh, I'm getting in on a, winning thing. And now it's going to be a little bit more, hey, we're just going directly to you, type of thing. But I still have high hopes about that. I've got a huge list of pedal companies, and that's one thing that I did. So I will go ahead and share the Ask These Folks for Money document so that we can all see. And this is already going to get kind of ahead of everything. But I've made a script for how we're gonna talk to these people, right? The pedal companies and the restaurants. Made a list of a bunch of local restaurants, and I'm not gonna give them too much play because that would be, defeating the purpose, right? And then I made a list of all these pedal companies. And then what I did beyond that is I want to make it feel personal when we're reaching out to all these pedal companies. So what I did was I went on their website and picked a pedal that I thought would be a particularly good pedal to feature in the movie, right? And so that's been taking me a while, but that's what I'm doing while sitting on the couch watching Veep today. So that's been a blast. Um, and then I'll go ahead. I think I only have one more thing for y'all. I'm gonna show the to-do list. Now, in working with three producers, Truman's orange, because that's my favorite color, and I'm the one who made the document. Gabe's a little mad about that, but he's magenta, which is also arguably a good color. Matthew, I kind of gave the shit into the stick, gave him lime green, but that's also kind of part of the bit. Matthew's always going to get shat on a little bit, right? We got the crowdfunding calls. The new goal, we're doing followers and loans. Because again, if we can get those loans, we can decrease our, current expenses and use those funds somewhere else, right? I just made the list of local pedal companies. Awesome. It's done, right? I'm trying to host like a crowdfunding event, right? So I probably need to try those in a week, and it's been a week. So I'm gonna start trying to find new venues to host fundraisers, right? We got to make the casting flyer. Matthew is hard at work on that right now. And then we're gonna reach out to local colleges to find some actors and things like that. We're gonna start calling the pedal companies. And I've created the dial tally meter, right? You got to pick up the phone, start dialing. And so far I have not dialed any pedal companies. Neither has Gabe or Matt, right? Whereas up here with crowdfunding, we got the 120 plus on me, and both of them have so far claimed zero, but I don't know that either of them has opened the document yet, right? And then we've got all these other things that we've got to do down the line. So then, we can mark it when it's due, when it's in progress, and when it's finished, and put some notes. And you highlight what you're gonna do in your color. I can't remember what Silicon Valley called it, but it's like a Scrum chart or something, was what I was trying to emulate without buying whatever fancy software. And then the only other thing is we're still in talks with all the crew members. Sorry, I don't have any kind of interview with you this week. But we're chatting with different crew members, seeing what they need. The DP position is still a hotly negotiated position that we're still discussing with Roberto. Michael is out, so bummer there. But hopefully I'll get to work with Michael on something else soon. Quinn is now in, so player three has entered the arena. And the main worry about all this is that these are all my good friends, and I really want to make sure everybody's happy. And so the one worry I have with, you know, not everyone can be DP, and I hope I didn't overpromise to people by even bringing up the possibility of them being DP. So, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to make a decision. But I'm really hopeful that we make a really good decision and everybody ends up happy. And I think where, everything's going, I think everybody will be happy. And yeah. Well, I believe that's all for today. Please keep tuning in. Please keep interacting. Tell all your friends about how awesome this podcast is. And all of that. And get ready for I'm probably gonna start gearing up to having more creative conversations soon about, the lenses and the cameras and all that, and what we're gonna strive for. So get excited about that, and we'll do lighting plans and everything. Maybe we'll even show a audition on the podcast and decide together. I'm gonna make the decision. But yeah, tune in next week. But again, none of that stuff's gonna be next week, but it's coming soon. Bye.